Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Hanover Nonsense, the show that I am beginning to regret, but will continue to make because, it's the right thing to do, at least in my mind. Gods, alright. So let's get into it. What happened this time? What happened on the 3rd of April? Well, as I sense this will likely become, this week in Senate, we went back to the Mike Pence scholarship. Now, before we get into my opinion on the matter, I will, of course, discuss what was discussed. Or, I guess, talk about what was discussed. Because I'm the only one here. So let me just get to my notes. Okay, so Mike Pence 2. What do we got? So, a forum was held to talk about the acceptance of a Mike Pence scholarship as part of the financial aid package for certain students. Now, those certain students have to be Indiana residents who have an interest in public service. Those are the requirements. Aside from being Hanover students, of course. So, requirements to be eligible for the Mike Pence scholarship are twofold. 1, be an Indiana resident. 2, have an interest in public service, which I think means a political science major. Interpret that how you will. I have my opinions about political science. Anyway, so what was going on for the first 30 minutes, maybe, of the forum was damage control in order to minimize the outrage coming from the Senate and what I estimate are a handful of people outside the Senate, because God, I need people on this campus to be majority reasonable, because otherwise, ugh. But anyway, we're getting into my opinions. So, it was made clear during this forum that the scholarship is not an endorsement of Mike Pence and all the thoughts and connotations that come with him. And let me just say that again. The scholarship is not an endorsement. The family that is providing the money for the scholarship doesn't know about the negative connotations of Mike Pence, mostly because they are relatively intelligent and don't have Twitter, and thus don't know about all the bad things that are said about him. It's just a family that is a friend of Mike Pence who think, wow, this Hanover student got pretty far, and thus want to make a scholarship outlining that. Okay? A couple of cards that were played on the Senate side, which I'm a part of but not a part of, was how by accepting this scholarship that would be further silencing unheard voices. And my question to that is, could you please define unheard voices? Because based on events that have been happening relating to this thing, it seems like what these kind of people would define as unheard voices are the most heard voices on this campus. I mean, save my opinions for the end. Also, I'd like to make it clear, very clear. Well, no, that's an opinion piece. Never mind. Over the course of the, it was a back and forth, really. Like, oh well, here's never mind. During close to the beginning of the second phase, I'll call it, where I don't remember, the scholarship approval chair, or whatever it is she does, when she started to step up and go on the offensive, right before that, somebody had attempted to make use of their place on the progressive stack And what I mean when I say that is they said as a insert, it was like 3 to 4 different quote unquote oppressed groups that this person was a part of here, and tried to push that forward as a kind of attack narrative. And then in response and I think this is fantastic, because this is how these people fight. And in response, the administrator pulled out their own place on the progressive stack. And I have no idea how to calculate the point values for this, so I have no idea who won that bit. But based on the fact that the subject was shifted right after that, I think our administrator won, or what might not be an administrator. I don't know. We'll just say administrator because, Anyway, also further during the second phase, a comment about the maturity of the audience, i.e. the Senate, was made, which was appropriate in the sense of attempting to reveal how the Senate was reacting to it, but also, if we're having a debate, it is inappropriate. However, I still approve of the comment, because even though there is no reasoning with these people, they will adhere to their dogma until the end. Okay. And a new piece of information actually came to light, and that is regarding the portrait, for those of you who know about this or listened to the very first episode of Hanover Nonsense. The portrait is not a part of the deal. It is a gift that was sent in. And from my understanding, based on what we were told, is that by denying the gift of the portrait, the money for the portrait would come out of Hanover's budget, as opposed to a small portion of the scholarship money. As for the scholarship itself, when compared to other pieces of financial aid, like the Donner Scholarship or federal Pell Grants, the Mike Pence Scholarship is actually rather small, being totaled around $750. So while that is not a small amount of money, when compared to the $50K that it costs to go to Hanover, or the $8,000 that the Donner Scholarship offers, it is very small. So that was used as a point as a damage control point, which, it's more money for people who have an interest in public service and are Indiana residents. So that's, technically I'm not eligible, but that doesn't mean I don't want someone else to have it. Which, that being brought up, the option to say no was brought up during the forum, which was one of the things that I wanted to hear, because that means, well, guess what? You don't have to sacrifice your principles to go to school. You can just say no, because people in the audience were simultaneously acting like this scholarship was the worst possible thing that could come to Hanover's campus. Yet without it, several people would not be able to attend. And yeah. So, and even if you do accept it, how often does the question of financial aid come up between people on campus and their peers? From my understanding, what is talked about is whatever, Netflix thing, you didn't get any sleep because you stayed up watching it, or how tired you are, or how stressed you are, or how many papers you have to write before 5 o'clock yesterday. My personal irritations with the common topics of conversation aside, financial aid does not seem to come up much, meaning, it's going to be relatively easy to avoid getting consumed by the Ouroboros if you accept the Mike Pence scholarship because you need the money. I mean, not everybody can be middle class and attend college on dad's money alone. Anyway, now I think is a good time to transition into my opinion section. But before that, I would also like to say that I could not stay for the entire thing at 8 o'clock. I had to leave and tend to another task. The part that I didn't sit in for, if I bring it up later, since this is still largely unscripted, I will refer to it as Phase 3. I imagine it was much of the same, though anybody in the comments who was actually there who sees this might correct me, please. I am interested in knowing what went down. And I'm sure the rest of the campus would be too. If, again, assuming that this goes around. Anywho, moving on to the opinion section. Now, I know what this is going to sound like, and I am being fully dismissive when I say this. It is arrogant to assume that you students can control what money people should and should not be allowed to receive on campus, no matter where it comes from. Who cares? They tried to hide it. And if this was brought up in Senate, they tried to hide it because they know the connotations and they know that it would cause, a whole bunch of sanctimonious outrage from the local activist brigade on campus. Gods, they tried to hide it, but no, there is no redemption. And to the two people who sat up in the front of the Senate and did this, I commend you. You stared at the Ouroboros and did not flinch as it consumed you, and that is pretty good, actually. I am very pleased by that. I am also pleased by the voices of reason that continue to appear in Senate. It gives me hope that perhaps my worst fear for the college will not come to pass. This place will not become like Evergreen and just fall. I'll actually have something to come back to eventually. But gods, the people who oppose this they act insufferable. They act so arrogant. And I know this is where some of you who know me are going to be like, GZ, you're arrogant. So yes, but I control it better. And that's what makes me better than them. Is that I keep it in check. And most of the time I only use it as a kickoff for jokes and whatnot. But, yes, gods, it's sanctimonious arrogance, just attempting to preach down on a soapbox. Personally, I think that the way this could have been handled by the administration is they put their foot down, say, your opinion doesn't matter about this, we're doing it. Because that's what the people who would oppose this need. You need to be firm. And but he's a bigot. It's not an endorsement. It's not an endorsement. I don't care. All right, let people spend their money how they want to. I mean, hell, they had to go get permission from the vice president to even do this in the first place. What's he gonna do? Say no? Yeah, I really not prefer having a scholarship on my in my name at my alma mater. Like, okay, Mr. Pence, whatever. No, he's not gonna do that. I mean, fucking God. It's just, it's frustrating. It's frustrating, But yeah, I don't care. And it seems like a lot of other people on campus also don't care because they understand that this is more money for somebody to get an education, which is what it should be viewed as. But the overly dogmatic activist culture that is pervasive on part of the campus is just trying to act like a gatekeeper. Meanwhile, they're forgetting that they are students. This is a student Senate that they were whining in. All right? It's not a real Senate. Don't take yourselves too seriously now. For those of you who are from last year's Senate with last year's Senate would have handled this a lot better, as much as I hate to say it. Last year's Senate would have handled it a lot better. Or it would have been handled worse. Personally, I think it would have been handled better, you know? But this year's Senate is much weaker in terms of just keeping things in control when it came to emotions boiling over. But yeah, I've wasted enough of your time with this half, thrown together play-by-play and half rant against my peers. I'm just frustrated because of how these people act. Anyway, I've been GZ. Hopefully, the next video I put out is of a more fun connotation, because God, I need it. Until then, see ya.